Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and also expert on Warner Brothers Discovery. But let's take a look at profit and loss on movies. This has been really popular lately. A lot of people have been talking about, here's one article talking about how Black Adam is making a profit. Here's another article talking about how Black Adam is a box office flop and they're losing $100 million at the box office. And I think it's valid, to talk about it and try to figure out why are some people saying some movies are making money? Other movies are not making money. Is Black Panther even going to break even? Because Black Panther is doing $767 million worldwide, but the first Black Panther did $1.38 billion worldwide. And this Black Panther costs a lot more money to promote and market. So to answer a quick question, yes, Black Adam is going to break even and make a small-ish profit of $50 to $70 million. Black Panther is probably going to make a few $100 million profit. Hard to believe, but true. And how is this possible? Well, it's a little thing called accounting. So Black Adam gave us a good basic profit and loss to go by. And I want to go through this with you guys and then also talk about some of the implications of this, because it's just good to have a baseline, of what the heck it is that everyone's talking about and what do they mean when they talk about breaking even theatrically, what do they talk about when they're making a profit. Let's discuss it. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, since a lot of people have been talking about Black Adam and a lot of people have been talking about Black Panther, let's talk about Black Adam and compare with Black Panther. Black Adam so far worldwide has done $388 million, and that's convenient because this profit and loss is estimated to be, what would their profit and loss be if they did $390 million worldwide? First on Black Adam, it's got a couple different categories of revenue. Revenue is the money that you get in from making the product. Obviously, when we make products, if I'm making comics, graphic novels, if Warner Brothers Discovery and Disney are making movies, we all want to sell as much as possible. We make projections. There's a high range. There's a low range. I am sure that Black Adam is at the lower range of what they were hoping the movie was going to do. I would think so. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like it's not going to break 400 million worldwide. Maybe it will, barely. So how could they still make a profit? Especially if they spent, a $200 million, $195 million making the movie and $100 million promoting the movie. There's something missing because, of course, the movie theaters, those are the distributors, they need to get a percentage of the money too. In the United States, it's usually around 50%. Internationally, they take 60% to distribute the film. So let's start by looking at the revenues. There's a few different places that money comes from when you make a product, particularly something like a big budget movie. When you're making comic books, you may only sell it crowdfunding, or you may only sell it to comic book stores. When you're making movies, you're going to be able to sell that in a number of places. Even lower end movies, but certainly big budget movies, high quality mainstream product, yes, you're going to sell it in multiple places. It's considered rentals when they're taking in the revenue from movie theaters. So how much are they taking in on Black Adam for theatrical rentals? Meaning for showing it in movie theaters. Net to Warner Brothers, how much money are they getting? Well, the gross revenue is $165 million they're estimating it's doing domestically. Domestic rentals get them $83 million, approximately half of that $165 million number, so we're basically in the right ballpark. International did $225 million. So international rentals, receipts from sales for international distribution, is $101 million. Which is approximately 40%. It's a little bit better than 40%. It's a little different in different countries. They don't have China. If it was China, they would only get 25%. Disney too, you only get 25% if you distribute a movie in China. But you can see, you add these two numbers together, they're only getting in $184 million. And remember, we said production cost of the movie right here, $195 million. So they're a little underwater and they haven't even paid for advertising yet. But before we look at the cost, let's look at the rest of the revenues. Home entertainment and TV revenues. Domestic home entertainment and streaming. Domestic home entertainment includes everything to do with direct-to-consumer sales, also including producing DVDs, whatever the physical media is that they're selling, but also digital download sales. So that plus a streaming licensing fee that in the case of Warner Brothers Discovery, they have their own streaming service. So they're paying a license to themselves. Disney does the same thing because they have their own streaming service. Now, Paramount is going to do the same thing when they put Maverick on their streaming service. They're going to write a check. Now, is there something funny about that? There's nothing funny about it. If you own a farm and you have cattle and you raise cattle, You have costs raising those cattle, and you're in the business of producing livestock. If you also happen to own a chain of restaurants and you're going to supply hamburgers to your restaurants from your cattle ranch, you're going to charge the restaurants, right? You're not just going to give it to them for free. You happen to make the cattle. The restaurant can't operate that way. They've got to pay. And how much are they going to pay? Approximately market rates. And there are all kinds of calculations that they use. They're more advanced than I'm sure we would both understand. But this is what the number is. Now, also, Strange World is a good example. Strange World's losing a lot of money. Everybody knows that. But did you know that Strange World is estimating to take $90 million net to them? $90 million for this terrible movie that they'll get in this extra ancillary licensing revenue. So that licensing revenue, ancillary revenue, includes domestic home entertainment and streaming. Disney has their own streaming service. They'll be cutting a check, not for that figure, but they'll be cutting a check for less than that figure. But they're going to cut from their different divisions other checks. International home entertainment, domestic free television. This is like if you're going to watch cable and you're just paying for it, is being paid for with ads, or it's on broadcast networks. Obviously, Disney has their own broadcast network, ABC. They'll be cutting a check of some amount. Domestic pay television. This is pay television services like an HBO, like Showtime. There's licensing revenue that comes from all this stuff. International TV, similarly. International TV licenses, however it's being distributed internationally. So in the case, going back to Black Adam, their domestic and international theatrical revenue and all their additional home entertainment and TV revenues, their total revenue is going to be $390 million, about equivalent to their total global revenue. Now, that's not always going to happen. It's happening in this case. I'm sure they would like that number to be higher. Now, what are their costs? Their costs are this, because it's not all just about revenues. You can't get to a profit without having costs. The production costs of making the film, estimated at $195 million. The global promotion and advertising for all of these distribution channels, for the theatrical, for home entertainment streaming, to promote everything they need to promote to generate this $390 million number. $100 million is figured here. The studio disputes that and says, no, it's really closer to $80 million. Who knows? We don't have the documentation, but $100 million is a good estimate. Additional expenses, participations, residuals, global home entertainment costs. What's that? Participation is shared profit with people like the producer of the movie, the big main star of the movie, and other stars of the movie. They get paid additional amounts of money when the movie breaks a certain number. $100 million domestic, for example, is a big milestone for a lot of participation agreements in Hollywood. If you break $100 million in domestic, you're considered to be kind of like a next tier. However, it is dependent on their specific contracts. But after paying The Rock and the production companies, in addition to residuals, that's paid over time usually, after it's been shown a number of times to all kinds of participants, not just the big stars. And then additionally, global home entertainment costs, because it's not free to sell and deliver your content to these home entertainment markets. That's estimated at $43 million. So this shows a total cost of $338 million against the total revenue of $390 million for a net profit of $52 million. Could be 50, could be 70, could be a little bit lower, could be somewhat higher. Is that a disappointment for Warner Bros. Discovery? It should be. I'd like to see higher numbers, but it's not a Marvel film. They don't have the momentum of the Marvel Universe. If you've seen Thor: Love and Thunder, have you seen the numbers it's done? $760 million. It's really unwatchable, and I'm not trying to down Marvel or anything like that. I really did sit down and say, you know what? I never saw this. Let me sit down. And I was trying to watch it the other night. It's difficult to watch. It reminds me of Star Trek V: Undiscovered Country, but not as good. Yet the movie still did $760 million, almost twice Black Adam. I guarantee you Black Adam is better than Thor: Love and Thunder, but it's not about being better. It's about the built-in Marvel brand. That is an asset that Disney has. And as much as Disney is, weakening that asset, because you could look, how did they do with Ragnarok? Well, $853 million. Now, there was the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic and this and that, but, if people wanted to go see it like Maverick, they'd go see it. They're losing revenue, but they're still making a ton of money. Can you imagine how much money they made on Thor: Love and Thunder? If Black Adam broke even, made $70 million profit at those numbers, you could take, this number is almost twice Black Adam's number. If they did, as they did, almost $800 million in worldwide revenues, when you take in all the ancillary markets it's probably 800 million in ancillary markets, all revenue in, all expenses in. It's probably $500 million, maybe not that much, approximately that. So they would probably made at least $300 million profit on Thor: Love and Thunder, even though the movie is basically unwatchable. And how much money will they make on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? Probably between $200 and $400 million profit. Not theatrically, but through all of their ancillary markets. And again, it does count. You have to face facts. Disney has an incredible profit machine still with Marvel. They're losing opportunities. They're pissing off the super fans. They're upsetting a lot of people. They're destroying their brands. They are destroying their brands. But they're not dead yet. They're still making a ton of money. And you can tell because these are real numbers. Black Adam really is making a profit. Black Panther really is probably making a few $100 million in profit, even though the character wasn't even in the movie. And that shows you the strength of the Marvel brand. Even Strange World, look at this. Strange World losing $100 million. Fine. They're getting $90 million on ancillary revenues, according to this. And Deadline is good with numbers. They know their stuff with numbers. 90 million additional dollars on an unwatchable, terrible movie. It just shows you the strength. Now, they don't have Marvel there, and none of the Disney brand is helping them with Strange World. They still can't make money theatrically with it. People don't want to go see it. And it's going to lose money, no question. Strange World could lose $100 to $147 million. It's going to lose a lot of money. But it's still incredible, if you think about it, how much money they make in these ancillary markets. And also, there isn't the licensing that they used to have for Marvel as well. They still have licensing. It still brings in revenue. Black Adam has additional licensing revenue that isn't counted in this figure. But just because a company that makes films also owns their own distribution, like if they were to own a chain of movie theaters, and studios did used to own movie theaters, it would not mean that just because they own the movie theaters, that the revenues that the theaters get to keep and the revenue that the theaters turn over to the movie studio are not real money. Owning the distribution channel doesn't mean that the distribution channel does not have relevant and real revenues. Money is money. It doesn't matter who owns the restaurant, who owns the movie theater. As long as these are industry standard equations they are using, such as half of the domestic revenue from movie theaters is going back to the studio, as opposed to 90% or 10%, then something would be off. Is this a great business? I don't know. I mean, for Disney, it's working. For Warner Bros. Discovery, if they ever get any kind of momentum going for their DC brand, this looks like to be about the bottom of what they're going to do. $400 million theatrically and probably $400 million total revenues and essentially break even or plus or minus $50 million. But that shows you that, with momentum, sure, they could have $700 million movies because they have. Batman did better than $700 million internationally. How much profit did they make on Batman? I don't have the profit and loss in front of me, but you can start to get a figure on this that if it's a movie that costs approximately $300 million to make and market, if you do about $400 million theatrically, your ancillary revenues are going to kick in to give you that break even and then to do a profit beyond that. If you do $500 million theatrically, you'll probably make another $50 million on that movie. If you make every $100 million, it's going to be $50 to $70 million in additional profit beyond that. All right, so I just wanted to cover this because I've done the same thing even with some of my videos, talk about Black Panther, like, oh, they're in a panic because they're not doing $1 billion. I'm sure they were a bit freaked out. I'm sure they would have loved Black Panther: Wakanda Forever to do at least $1 billion. But Marvel is not going to get shut down over making only $200 or $300 million profit off of Wakanda Forever. They're going to keep being woke. They're going to keep doing their thing. Very unlikely they're going to change anything. Thankfully, they seem to want to honor the brands at Warner Bros. Discovery, and they are going to make good films that are the kind of films that the super fans are going to want, are going to talk about, and are going to buy merchandise based on. And the merchandise is a great way to estimate, do people really like this brand or don't they like the brand? Because they're not going to buy stuff if they don't really like the brand. But as far as being able to hustle and make money, the Marvel properties are going to hustle and make money. The streaming service is a big problem. I don't know what's going to happen with their streaming service. Maybe they fix it, maybe they don't. Theatrically, numbers don't lie. And that's why I wanted to do this video, to go over these numbers with you. I'd love to see your comments on this. below. Tell me what you think. Do you kind of go along with what I'm saying with these numbers? Do you see where I'm coming from on how significant ancillary revenues are for Black Adam, but also for Wakanda Forever and for all films? Or do you disagree? Do you have different information? I mean, you might have different information than I do. I'd love to hear it if you do. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.